Let's talk about strength, not the kind that puffs its chest or needs to be loud to prove something, but the kind of strength that looks like calm in the middle of a storm, the kind that sits silently while others throw stones, and instead of reacting, it simply absorbs, evaluates, and moves forward without ever getting pulled out of alignment. That's what I mean when I say learn to act as if nothing and nobody will ever hurt you. It's not about denying pain. It's about redefining strength as inner calm, not coldness. You see, most people misunderstand what power looks like. They think it's control over others. They think it's revenge, dominance, intimidation. But the real power, the rarest kind, is self-control, emotional control. It's being able to stay grounded when someone else tries to knock you over. It's keeping your composure when everything in you wants to explode. That's strength, and it's earned. You don't get it by accident, you train for it. You earn it by letting life punch you and choosing not to flinch. Now, there's nothing glamorous about this kind of strength. It doesn't get applause. No one sees you staying quiet in the heat of an argument. No one sees you walking away from what you could have destroyed with a few words. But that's where the quiet victory is. That's where your real power grows. Every time you choose presence over reaction, you expand your emotional territory. You claim more space inside of yourself that nobody else can reach. And when nobody can reach that space, nobody can shake you. Nobody can truly hurt you. Not because they've stopped trying, but because you've stopped giving them access. Let me ask you this: when someone insults you, when someone disrespects you, what really causes the pain? Is it the words themselves, or is it your belief that those words might be true? Most people don't get hurt by others. They get hurt by their own interpretations, their own fears, their own insecurities being exposed. So if you can build your inner world to the point where you know exactly who you are, what you stand for, what you're worth, what your purpose is, then all of a sudden, those jabs from the outside, they don't land. You're not avoiding them. You're just not absorbing them anymore. This doesn't mean you stop feeling. Don't get that twisted. You're not becoming a robot. You're just becoming unshakable. And there's a big difference. You feel everything, but you're not ruled by any of it. That's emotional maturity. That's what allows you to act if nothing, and nobody will ever hurt you. Because even if they try, even if it stings for a moment, you know how to come back to your center. You know how to turn pain into fuel. You know how to stand tall and keep walking. And the truth is, this kind of composure isn't just about you. It changes how people see you. It changes the energy you carry. When people realize they can't trigger you, they stop trying. When they realize they can't manipulate you, they get uncomfortable. And when they see that their chaos doesn't reach you, they start to respect you. Even if they don't say it, you become a different kind of presence. A presence that commands without needing to control. And I'll tell you something else. People can feel it. They can feel when someone has made peace with themselves. They can feel when someone has done the inner work to become rooted. They may not understand it, but they feel it. And you don't even have to speak. Your calm will speak for you. Your unbothered presence will do the work. That's why it's so important not just to act strong, but to be strong, quietly, consistently, unshakably. So when I say, learn to act as if nothing and nobody will ever hurt you, I don't mean pretend. I mean prepare. Build yourself up from the inside so thoroughly that when the tests come, and they will come, you meet them with poise, not panic. That's what makes people remember you. That's what builds legacy. That's what keeps you moving forward when others fall apart. Because the world isn't kind, and people aren't always fair. But you can be the one who walks through all of it untouched, not because it didn't hurt, but because you chose not to carry it. And that choice, made over and over, is what will turn you into someone the world cannot shake. You ever notice how fast people react these days? Somebody says something offensive, and boom, there's a firestorm. One look, one word, one comment, and people explode. That's not strength. That's a lack of control. That's allowing yourself to be pulled around like a puppet by every passing moment. And I'll tell you something that'll change the game for you. The moment you realize you don't have to react, you can respond. That's when your life begins to shift. Reacting is automatic, it's survival. It's raw emotion without thought. But responding, that's mastery, that's intention. That's you choosing how you show up no matter what the world throws at you. When you learn to act as if nothing and nobody will ever hurt you, this becomes one of your greatest tools. Choosing your response instead of reacting like everybody else. That's when people start wondering, what does this person know that I don't? Because look, people will try you. Life will test you. That's not a question. The question is, will you let it drag you out of alignment every time? Or will you hold your ground, breathe, and make your next move from a place of power, not panic? That's a choice, and it's a choice most people don't even realize they have. They get caught in the loop, stimulus, reaction, regret, over and over, and they wonder why their life feels chaotic. But when you step back, when you stop taking everything so personally, you start to see the whole picture. You begin to understand that what other people do has more to do with them than with you. Someone cuts you off in traffic and flips you off. That's not about you. That's their stress. Someone talks behind your back. That's their insecurity. Someone tries to provoke you. That's their chaos. Your job isn't to absorb it. Your job is to recognize it for what it is and decide who you want to be in that moment. Now, don't get me wrong. This isn't about being passive. This isn't about letting people walk all over you. This is about power, real power. The kind that doesn't need to flex or scream or prove anything. The kind that sits in silence while others lose their minds and simply asks, is this worth my energy? Most of the time, the answer is no. Not because you're weak, but because you've built things worth protecting. Your peace. And peace doesn't come cheap. It comes from hours of reflection, from choosing not to fire back, from walking away when every part of you wants to stay and fight. It comes from discipline, from understanding that your energy is currency, and you're not just giving it out for free to every loud, angry, unstable person who wants a piece of it. You've got a mission. You've got vision. You've got better things to do than be dragged into someone else's storm. So what do you do instead? You pause, you breathe, you ask yourself, who do I want to be right now? And then you respond. Maybe your response is silence. Maybe it's a smile. Maybe it's a calm truth delivered with sharp clarity. But whatever it is, it's chosen. You own it. You don't regret it later because it didn't come from a place of ego or emotion. It came from you, and when you do this enough times, something incredible happens. People stop trying to pull you off center. They sense it. They see that you don't flinch. You don't break. You don't get rattled like everyone else. You're grounded. You're present. You don't just act as if nothing will hurt you. Yous move like it, Aves speak like it, and live like it, and that changes how the world treats you. Because when people realize they can't manipulate your emotions, they lose leverage. When they realize you're calm no matter what, they start adjusting themselves around you. And let's be honest, who do you want to be in this world? Someone who's constantly reacting to things you can't control, or someone who controls how you respond to everything? You already know the answer. And once you commit to that path, once you start responding instead of reacting, you begin to reclaim every ounce of your power, moment by moment, choice by choice. Because in the end, it's not what happens to you that defines your life, it's what you do with it. Every time something painful happens to you, you've got two choices. You can let it break you or you can let it build you. That's it. That's the whole game. And the truth is, most people don't even realize there is a choice. They get hit with something, betrayal, loss, failure, and they collapse. They turn inward, start doubting everything, start asking, why me? But I want you to start asking a different question. What is this trying to teach me? You've got to start looking at pain like a training ground. That discomfort, that pressure, that's the weight room for your soul. Just like you don't get stronger without resistance in the gym, you don't build resilience without friction in life. You don't gain clarity without confusion. You don't develop emotional muscle without emotional struggle. So instead of fearing pain, you start using it. You start welcoming it, not because you enjoy it, but because you understand what it's here to do. Most people want growth without discomfort. They want the result without the process. But that's not how life, you don't just wake up with wisdom, you earn it through mistakes, through pain, through falling down and choosing to get back up, not just physically, but mentally and emotionally. Every wound has something to offer you. Every setback has a lesson buried inside, but you only get it if you're willing to look, if you're willing to sit in it for a minute and ask, all right, what am I supposed to learn here? What's the upgrade? That's the key. You treat pain like feedback, not failure. You use it to sharpen your awareness, to uncover what's still raw in you, because if something still hurts deeply, that means it still has power over you. And that's where the work begins. That's where the transformation happens. You lean into it, you examine it, and then piece by piece, you take that power back. I'm not saying it's easy. I'm saying it's necessary. Growth doesn't happen in comfort. That's not where the breakthroughs lie. The breakthroughs live in the pressure, in the moments where you're questioning everything, when life pulls the rug out from under you and you're standing there wondering who you really are without the title, without the plan, without the support. That's where you discover what you're really made of. And listen, you're going to have days where it feels like too much. You're going to have moments where you want to check out, where the pain is so deep you wonder if it'll ever leave. But I want you to remember something in those moments. This is not the end. This is a chapter. This is part of your training. And the people who learn to keep moving, to keep thinking, to keep growing through moments, they come out different. They come out stronger, more grounded, more capable, because they didn't run from it. They used it. And once you start doing that, once you build that habit, something shifts in you. You stop fearing the storm. You start stepping into it with open eyes. Not because you enjoy suffering, but because you trust yourself. You know that whatever comes, you'll face it, learn from it, and walk out better. That's when you start to act like someone nothing and nobody can hurt. Not because you're numb, but because you've learned how to turn everything that was meant to harm you into something that helps you. You become untouchable, not in the sense that you won't ever feel pain again, but in the sense that no pain will ever be wasted. You'll get knocked down, sure, but you won't stay down. You'll hurt, but you won't crumble. You'll feel the sting, but you'll look it in the eye and say, thanks for the lesson. Because once you understand that pain is a messenger, not a master, you stop fearing it. You start listening to it. You start learning. And that's where your power multiplies. That's where the fear starts to fade. Because now you know no matter what happens, you won't just survive it, you'll grow from it. You'll rise with more awareness, more strength, more clarity than you had before. And that mindset right there, that's how you turn your life into a masterclass in resilience. Because when you stop asking, why is this happening to me? And start asking, what is this creating does in me? You win every time. You ever meet someone who just doesn't flinch, doesn't panic, doesn't overreact, doesn't lose control, no matter what's going on around them? That's not luck. That's not something they were born with. That's a result of training. They've built themselves into that. And that's exactly what you've got to do. If you're going to act like nothing and nobody will ever hurt you, you have to train yourself to be imperturbable, not cold, not emotionless, but calm, grounded, unshakable. That doesn't happen by accident. You have to build it. You have to practice it. You've got to make it a daily discipline, just like anything else. You don't expect to be physically strong if you never step into the gym. Same thing here. Mental and emotional strength come from reps, small moments, tough decisions, hard conversations where you choose not to be ruled by emotion, not to get sucked into chaos. And the more you do it, the more natural it becomes. But it starts in the small, quiet moments. when no one's watching. It starts with how you handle frustration when things don't go your way, when someone says something that pushes your buttons, when a plan falls apart or something hits you out of nowhere. In those moments, most people react, they complain, blame, get loud, spiral out. But you pause, you breathe, you observe, you remind yourself, I don't need to give this my power. And you respond with presence, not panic. And listen, that might sound simple, but it's not easy, because we're trained by the world to chase urgency, to respond fast, to defend ourselves, to clap back, to fight for control. But here's the truth: control doesn't come from domination, it comes from discipline. It comes from training your mind to stay centered no matter how loud the world gets. You don't get there by accident, you get there by intention. That's where practices like meditation, journaling, and visualization come in, not because they're trendy, not because they're spiritual fads, but because they teach you to observe your own thoughts instead of being trapped in them. They teach you to separate stimulus from response. They slow you down so you can stop reacting out of habit and start responding from strength. When you journal, you're processing your inner world. When you meditate, you're training your nervous system to remain calm under pressure. When you visualize, you're rehearsing strength so that when life throws you something real, you're ready. It's not the first time you've faced it. It's just the first time it's happening outside your mind. And here's the secret: the more you train in peace, the more effective you become in chaos. Most people wait until everything falls apart to start working on their mindset. By then, it's too late. You need to build the mindset before the storm hits. That way, when it comes, you're already grounded. You're not scrambling to find yourself. You already know who you are. And that confidence, that calm, that presence, it radiates. People feel it. They trust it. They respect it. Because the world doesn't need more people who can shout louder. It needs more people who can stay composed under pressure. It needs more leaders who don't get rattled every time something doesn't go according to plan. It needs people like you to step up, not with more noise, but with more clarity, more steadiness. And you don't get that by avoiding pressure. You get it by learning to breathe through it, to master it, to own your inner state no matter what's happening outside. And when you really get this, when you live it, people start coming to you when things fall apart, not because you have all the answers, but because you've got something they don't: peace, presence, certainty. They feel safe around you. They know you won't spiral, and that's powerful. That's leadership. That's what separates the ones who just survive from the ones who shape their lives on purpose. And you're not doing this so people admire you. You're doing it so that you can move through the world without being a slave to it, so that no matter what gets thrown at you, judgment, rejection, crisis, betrayal, you stay centered, you stay focused, you stay in control of you. That's what makes you untouchable, because when you train your mind to stay calm in chaos, you don't just survive the storm. You become the calm in the storm. One of the fastest ways to lose your peace, your power, your presence is to start needing people to like you, to start depending on their validation. Because the moment you need someone's approval, you give them control. You hand them the remote to your emotional state. And they don't even have to press a button. You're already on edge, already performing, already shrinking or stretching just to stay in their good graces. That's not freedom. That's quiet slavery. And the truth is, you'll never be able to act like nothing and nobody can hurt you until you cut the cord between your self-worth and other people's opinions. Think about it. How often do you make decisions based on how they'll be perceived? How often do you hesitate, not because it's wrong, but because you're worried about judgment? How often do you play it safe, stay small, go along, not because it's aligned, but because it's acceptable? That's what external validation does. It turns you into a version of yourself that's easy for other people to digest, but hollow for you to live with. You have to get to a place where you're so rooted in who you are, in what you stand for, in what you're here to do, that no amount of praise makes you arrogant and no amount of criticism makes you shrink. That's real strength. That's where you start becoming untouchable. Because when you don't need approval, rejection loses its power. You can hear no and keep walking. You can be misunderstood and still speak your truth. You can be doubted and still execute. You're not waiting for permission anymore. You're not chasing applause. You're aligned. And that alignment is louder than anything anyone could ever say about you. It's not about being defiant. It's about being free. Most people think freedom is doing whatever you want, but real freedom is being who you are, without apology, without explanation, without compromise. That doesn't mean you're arrogant. That means you've built a relationship with yourself that's unshakable. You trust your instincts. You know your values. You've done the work. So when someone questions you, it doesn't rattle you. You're not shaken because they don't see your vision. You're grounded because you do. The world has too many people playing roles. Too many people editing themselves for the sake of acceptance. And what happens? They burn out, they break down, because pretending is exhausting. Trying to please everyone is a full-time job, and it never ends. The more people you please, the more people you feel responsible for. And eventually you forget who you were before the performance started. That's why I'm telling you detach. Not from people, but from needing them, from needing the praise, the attention, the acceptance. When you do that, you gain clarity. You start showing up as the version of yourself that feels real, not rehearsed. You speak with more certainty. You move with more confidence. And the best part, you attract people who are actually aligned with value, not with the character you were playing. That's how you build real relationships, real trust, real impact. And yeah, it takes courage. It takes courage to be yourself in a world that profits off your insecurity. It takes courage to keep showing up when your truth isn't popular. But that's the test. That's the line between living a life that's yours and living one that's rented. You've got to own your space. You've got to own your voice. Because if you don't, someone else will shape it for you. And you'll wake up one day realizing you built a life around keeping everyone else comfortable but yourself. You want to act like nothing and nobody will ever hurt you. Start here. Start by no longer outsourcing your identity. Start by no longer waiting for someone to tell you you're good enough. Decide you already are. Decide that your approval is the only one required. And then walk like it, speak like it, live like it. Because once you stop chasing validation, you start attracting respect, not because you begged for it, but because you became someone who doesn't need it. And when you get to that place, life starts to feel different, lighter, clearer, more honest. You're no longer performing, you're living. You're no longer chasing, you're choosing. And in a world full of people trying to impress everyone else, or you become the one who can't be moved. Most people don't realize how much power there is in composure. Real, quiet power. Not the kind that needs to dominate a room. Not the kind that gets loud or aggressive when things don't go as planned. I'm talking about the kind of power that comes from someone who's centered, who doesn't flinch, doesn't panic, doesn't get rattled. That kind of presence, that's rare. And the rarer something is, the more valuable it becomes. You look around today and everyone's in a rush. Everyone wants instant results, quick wins, fast validation. But life isn't a sprint, it's a long game. And the people who win over time, the ones who really build something that lasts, they're not the loudest. They're not the most reactive. They're the ones who keep showing up, who don't let emotions run the show, who know how to stay steady when everything around them is chaotic. That's power. That's presence. That's long-term dominance, not short-term attention. So when I say act as if nothing and nobody can hurt you, I'm not talking about arrogance. I'm not talking about acting like you're invincible. I'm talking about composure, deep, trained, disciplined composure. Because when you stay calm under pressure, you gain something that most people never get: clarity. And with clarity comes control, not over other people, but over yourself. And once you master yourself, you've already won more than most people ever will. Think about it. How many mistakes in your life were made because you reacted too quickly? How many things did you say that you didn't mean? How many times did you burn bridges, sabotage opportunities, or lose momentum because you let emotion get the best of you? We've all been there. But here's the truth: that version of you, the reactive, emotional, scattered version, can't win the long game. That version may survive, but it will never lead, never build, never own its future. You want to build something that matters, whether it's a business, a relationship, a legacy. You've got to play long. And to play long, you need composure. You need to be the one who doesn't fold when things get uncomfortable. You need to be the one who doesn't lose it when people disappoint you. You need to be the one who sees the storm coming and doesn't panic but prepares. That's how you win. That's how you build power that doesn't disappear the moment things get tough. And that kind of composure, it doesn't just benefit you, it elevates everyone around you. When you stay calm, other people feel safer. When you don't overact, you create space for better decisions. When you carry yourself with steady confidence, people take you seriously, not because you demanded it, but because your energy speaks louder than your words ever could. That's leadership. That's influence. That's what people remember. But you have to train it. You don't become composed just because you want to. You become composed because you decide to show up differently. You take every challenge, every conflict, every tough conversation as a chance to practice staying grounded. You pause before reacting. You breathe before speaking. You remember that the person who controls the pace of the moment usually controls the direction, and that becomes your advantage. Not because you overpower people, but because you don't get thrown off by them. And here's the beautiful thing: the more you live this way, the less you get triggered, the less you take things personally, the less you're controlled by circumstances, and the more you become the one creating outcomes. Because when you're calm, you think clearly. When you're composed, you can see angles others miss. When you don't let ego run wild, you hear things most people overlook. That's power. That's strategy. That's control. And not control over others, control over your destiny. So don't underestimate the power of calm. Don't dismiss composure as weakness. It's one of the strongest forces in the world. And in the long game, it's the composed player who wins, not because they were the loudest, but because they never let the noise pull them out of alignment. Because when you can stay calm no matter what's happening around you, you don't just survive the game, you change the game.